and put a lot of thought into kind of the early stages of this as well. So, that's my thing. And I think next year we're going to try to schedule this to coincide with World Wetlands Day week. So probably that first week of February, maybe, I think the first Friday in February is February 5th. So maybe tentatively pencil that in. We'll have to go back and look at calendars and find out for sure and get something concretely on the calendar. But that's the tentative plan for now. So kind of keep that in mind. We'll try to firm that date up as we go forward so we can get the word out as soon as possible and hopefully be able to plan around. Again, any feedback you have on how we can do this better next year, we are all ears. We'd love to just do what we can do to keep making this something meaningful and important for us. So with that, Jessi is going to talk to us today about science education at Crew.
Hi, I'm Jessi. I work out at Crew Land and Water Trust. I'm their new environmental education specialist. I took over Deb Hansen's position. If you know Deb, she's amazing. She retired and moved to Portland. I'm very happy. Do you want to keep in touch with her? She's on Facebook all the time. So we're going to do a 360, basically, and talk about something other than data, really. There's so much research that goes on in this room, and we've talked about all this stuff, but what really needs to happen, too, is the education portion of it. So I'm not a researcher. I prefer not to be one. I don't really like data, but I like telling people about it. I like learning about what's going on. Cypress knees are like the coolest thing ever now. Super good. Yes. And so what my part of all of this is the education. So I'm going to talk a little bit about how we keep that going at Crew. I think we all know what Crew is now, right? And where we are located in this lovely project. So I don't really need to touch on that too much. I'll try to keep this a little short and sweet on time. So for Crew Land and Water Trust, we're the nonprofit side of all this, and we do the public outreach and the environmental education. So there's different types of science education at Crew, and there's a ton of different things that we do. Legacy, wildlife walks. We do guided walks at all three of our trails. We have about sometimes 3 times a week. So there's a lot of education that goes on out there. Panther Posse, that's with FGCU and Ricky Piers. And what I primarily do is the walk through the watershed with 3rd graders. But the things I'm going to talk about today is Legacy and the Strolling Science Seminars, the first and the last one. Just for some numbers, our total environmental education last year for the fiscal year of 2014 was 4,633. If you'd like to see the breakdown of that, I have an annual report, but I figured I wouldn't put graphs in mine. What I love about what goes on out at Crew is that I get to work with young children, and I get them outdoors and do stuff that they typically wouldn't be able to do, but I also get to interact with a lot of other people in the older ages. So what I'm going to be talking about today is how we're reaching both of those scales, which is great. So what is Legacy? The Legacy program started in 2010. There's schools mostly from Collier County that come out, and they're high schoolers. So the high schoolers, when it first started, when they were coming out to Bird Rookery Swamp, they kind of wanted to have a more meaningful impact. They didn't want just a field trip. And so when Deb was talking to some of the teachers there, she decided to make all the work that they did out there and put it into an actual data sheet and be able to turn that and work with the South Florida Water Management District to actually record some of the data that they'd be out there doing. So it's hands-on, it's educational, they're collecting data, they're working with different community members, not only Crew, but a lot of the volunteers that work with us out there. So it's really interesting to see the different types of kids that come out. So the history of Legacy, we started in 2010 with just bird counts, and then in 11 we did some more bird counts, and then by 2012 we really picked up some extra things. So what we're doing now is water quality, bird counts, wildlife diversity, and vegetation index. So those are the 4 sheets that we're talking about today. And all this is covered for class 2. So Deb she used to go into the classroom and talk to them, brief them about the different units and what they'd be using, and then their science teacher would continue that education until they come out to Crew. So one of the first sheets they get is water quality, and they break up into 4 different groups, and so each group will have a certain sheet that they focus on with. And what's neat about that is most of the time the teacher stays with them on the water quality, but we have crew volunteers that will work with the bird count, I'll be with vegetation or something else. So they're always interacting with a different generation, which is phenomenal. So this one, they take temperature, pH, and then different nutrient levels. They use the LabQuest for this. And so they keep all that recorded. And we have different stops throughout Bird Rookery Swamp, which then that's when they record their data. The bird count is anything that they see and or hear. And so what's interesting about this is most of the time when they come out there, they have no idea what anything is. And what's really neat is we'll be sitting there after lunch with each other and they'll see a red-shouldered hawk and actually be able to name it, which is phenomenal. Like, it's huge impact. The wildlife diversity is anything that they see or evidence, so whether it's scat on the boardwalk or actually a bobcat, they write that down, which is good. And then the vegetation index. This one's really interesting because they use a plot circle and they have a rope that's already pre-recorded and they'll go out. They used to actually have to go out with the rope and then, but at Bird Rookery Swamp, if you've been there before, getting off that tram is a little intimidating when there's cottonmouths around you. So this time we actually just have to do it by eyesight. So they'll eye out a certain plot, and then from there they'll kind of identify the plants that are in it. And this is the same thing, being able to have a student at the end of that trip be able to identify them before I can is just, it's super impactful. And so Steve, the director of the Southwater Water Management Stewardship Division, said that they're collecting information that can be built on year after year, and that is their legacy. So these students leave Crew and Bird Rookery Swamp with a lasting impact, which I haven't done anything with the data yet, so that's something, so I'm educating people about it. And then one day an intern, win.
I'm glad you
Okay. Work on that one. And then the second part that I'm going to talk about is the strolling science seminars that we do at Crew. So this is the older, this is adult education. And this is less about reporting data, and this is more about educating on what research is going on out there. If you've done a strolling science seminar, could you raise your hand? Right. Yeah, awesome. So there's a good amount. So what we do for strolling science seminar is we bring in experts in their field to lead a group of adults and through outdoor education and kind of do a scientific study while they're out there, or to kind of talk about one that they've done or anything like that. It's a way to engage the adults. I feel like sometimes after a certain age, it's less harder for you to get out and learn about these different things and these new research and all the stuff that's going on. At the younger age, when you get out there, you always are talked about it. So we're really trying to bring that back to adults, especially in the local area. And so my favorite goal for this too is to engage citizens to actively participate in what they're doing science back at home. So this is something that they can take back with them. We also provide them with online resources if they wanted it. And I've had plenty of strolling science seminar presenters give out their information and have stayed in contact with some of their participants, which is really cool. So I'm going to go through some of the history of the strolling science seminars that we've had out at Crew. So this started in 2011. This was Deb's child. Deb Hansen, this is one thing that she wanted to make sure that we offered at Crew before she retired. So I had to give all the credit to her. She did a phenomenal job putting this together. And we started off by getting the grant money from the Charlotte Harbor estuary program. But people can do anything through bear ecology, pollinators, insects. So some of these topics can be very large, some of them can be very focused in. But we have usually a really great range, and we do 6 during the season. So we've had Billy, Kathleen come out whenever Hannah's done some. In 2012, we did snakes, evolution, exotic species, butterflies, dragonflies, panthers. And so all these people get to interact with not only each other, but that expert in their field, which is great. In 2013, we did Lives of Fungi, and that was a really neat one because it was a professor and a student from FGC that kind of co-led that hike and went together on it. So, when it comes down to presenters, it's not a certain place that we go to. We are looking for new presenters all the time. And I think what's neat about this too is that whoever we ask to present, they can present on whatever they want. This is your topic. So if you're really enthusiastic about dragonflies or ferns, most of the time if you're out there with them, those people will, the participants that come out really just want to engage and learn more about the area that's around them. So we've never had a Sterling Science seminar that has just been a bust. They're always so excited, whether it's about ferns or panthers that they don't even see. Mike has done some. We have had ferns, engineering of the Everglades. And currently, this year we brought the batting Sterling Science seminar back, which is super fun. We actually go out there and Kathleen will set up the nets and we'll catch bats and kind of identify them with the people that are out there. So that's extremely fun. So that first top picture is over there. And this is actually the only Sterling Science seminars that I have been at, so that's probably why I'm talking about them the most, because I actually know about these. The mosquito one was with Neil Wilkinson, and so we went around and we put out different mosquito nets. We caught some microinvertebrates to talk about that kind of life cycle. And he brought out different types of critters that eat mosquitoes and mosquitoes that we were able to identify through microscopes, which was really cool. We did fire and water, so we talked about prescribed burns and how hydrology changes environments. And that was really neat because we actually did a prescribed burn on that one. So Jim was out there and Joe, and we lit up a place, and you should have saw their faces when they saw a sable palm go up in fire. They were like, oh my gosh. It was great, and they were able to see the gear that we were putting on too, and all the behind the scenes work that it takes to actually put a prescribed burn together. And the science behind it. The gopher tortoise, this is one that we recently did with John Herman. And for most of that, we never saw a gopher tortoise, but I have never seen people so excited to try it and find a burrow. They were just like gung-ho. And we went, for a while, we got kind of lost and it wasn't in a dry area at all, so we knew we weren't going to be looking for them. But as soon as we got upland habitat, they were like going through the brush. And in prime example for them wanting to stay active afterwards, I had tons of emails with people wanting to be like, oh, so what can I do if I find a burrow? Because they found out that we are doing research at Crew, as Diana mentioned earlier. And so we talked about an FWC app that they could take a picture and give the GPS coordinates, and then Kathleen could eventually see that. So a lot of them want to stay active within the scientific role as after they learn about it. And so the next one we're going to do is birding with the master, and Tiffany Thornhill will be helping us with that. So that's super exciting. So that's really the history behind the Sterling Science Seminar. We're hoping to continue this to go on, just because there's so much information out there that is not only happening at Crew, but in this Corkscrew watershed. Yeah, so that's really my part. Hopefully there's going to be a lot more by next year. But yeah, come out to Crew anytime. There's always something new. Yeah.
For the Sterling Science Seminars, where are most of those participants coming from?
Oh, that's a good question. So one of the big reasons why we started the Sterling Science Seminar too were to get people that weren't Crew members out to Crew for education. So a lot of them are Northerners. But we have a good amount of local members that are from. It's
a real mixture.
Yeah.
We had many of our crew members, just because they were the first ones we reached out to. Jack Montgomery was here earlier, and I was telling Maureen earlier, several of the people do a lot of work at 6 Mile Cypress Slough, so they love being able to gather this information and they take it there and they share it with all their volunteers, which is great. And it goes back to citizen science that was discussed earlier that Sally touched base on.
How do people find out when they are?
our website.
Join Crew.
You join Crew. Yeah. Yeah, our website flyers that get passed around word of mouth. I will say, like, the people hear about, I mean, especially bird workers, most of those places are by word of mouth. Thank you.
Thank you so much.